If you were to ask me, and nobody did ask me this question, but if somebody asked me, what do you think is the best thing that ever happened to Lightroom? I would say hands down, without a shadow of a doubt, range masks. Range masks are by far the best thing that ever happened to Lightroom. And here's why. So my editing process, it always starts off in Lightroom and ends up in Photoshop. And typically the reason I have to finish an edit or take it from Lightroom and put it in Photoshop is because of Lightroom's inability to create a highly targeted local adjustment. This is before range masks. Now, if you're not familiar with what a local adjustment is, there's really two types of adjustments. You have a global adjustment and a local adjustment. A global adjustment is one that impacts every part of your scene equally. So here's a great example right here. This is your standard landscape image with an overexposed sky. So we could reduce our exposure some. We could also bring our highlights down to the point to where we start to get the detail back in the sky, and somewhere right around there looks good. And that looks much better than it did before. But now we're faced with a secondary issue, which is a very underexposed foreground and an underexposed midground. And that's often the issue when using global adjustments, is because sure, you could be making an area of your scene look much, much better, but you could also be making a completely separate area of your image look much, much worse. Now, a local adjustment is one that only impacts a very small or localized area of your photograph, and it leaves the rest of your image alone. Now, Lightroom provides three different ways to create a local adjustment. This is before range masks. So you had the graduated filter, you had the radial filter, you had the adjustment brush. So for this image right here, let me just reset these values. If we wanted to create a local adjustment just for the sky, I would come up here to the graduated filter, and I'm going to drag it down over the sky, hold down the shift key just to keep it straight. Something like that I think looks good. We can hit the shortcut key O to see the mask overlay. So everything in red is going to receive the edit. And you'll notice that the trees are also going to receive the edit, the palm trees and everything beneath the palm trees as well. And this is a real common issue with landscape photography, is where you have like a mountain that's breaking the horizon or trees that are breaking the horizon. And it makes it difficult to use a graduated filter in those types of scenarios. So what we could do, let me turn off our mask overlay, is let me go ahead and just apply an adjustment here. So we'll bring it down. I'm going to kind of overdo it a little bit just so it's easier to see at home. So what we could do is, as you can see, the trees are completely dark now, and if you can really tell when I turn the effect on and off. So this is off, and this is on. This is off, and this is on. So you can really see our trees are almost silhouetted now. So everything up here is completely dark. Everything beneath it is much darker than it was before, because it's ultimately receiving the graduated filter, and that's not what we want to do. So we could come up here to the brush tool and select erase. And with a very small brush, oops, let's make this as small as I could, I can come up here and attempt to erase the area that received the edit. So up and down the palm tree here, along with the actual palm fronds up through here. And as you can tell, that is pretty much impossible. So let me undo that. So this is where range mask comes in. So Lightroom provides two different types of range masks. You have a luminance range mask and you have a color range mask. The luminance range mask basically works off of luminance values or brightness values to determine what areas of the local adjustment to apply the edit to and what areas to not apply the edit to. And in the color range mask basically gives you the ability to tell Lightroom what colors to affect of the local adjustment and what colors to completely ignore. So most of the time I'm using a luminance adjustment. I'd say at least 75% of the images that I use a range mask on are all done with the luminance adjustment. So I'm going to come down here to range mask. And what I'll do is select this. We will highlight luminance. And we're going to come down here to the range slider. And if I hold down the option key, now this is important. So you want to remember this saying, white reveals, black conceals. So white reveals, black conceals. And this is the way the filter looks right now. So everything in white is receiving the edit and everything in black is not receiving the edit. Now, as I start to slide this range slider to the right, you'll notice that the palm trees and the area beneath the palm trees are becoming more and more visible. And we ultimately want that area to become black because we do not want that area to receive the edit. The only area that we want white is really the sky. I think somewhere right around there looks good. I'm going to turn down the exposure even more just so it's easier to see. And now if you pay close attention up here to the top of the palm trees and the area beneath the palm trees, I'm going to turn this off and on. So this is off and this is on. So this is off and this is on. So you can see how the actual graduated filter is no longer impacting the palm trees or the area beneath it. It is only targeting the sky itself, which is exactly what we want out of the range mask. And it's absolutely fantastic. I think I literally use a luminance range mask on just about almost every one of my photographs. I find at least one area of the scene that I need to apply a luminance range mask to, and it just works absolutely fantastic. Now the second option is the color range mask. So I'm going to come down here. Let me just close that out. And for this one, we're going to do the exact opposite. We're not going to target the sky. We're going to exclude the sky. We only want to target the tree, maybe this grass in the foreground, and this area in the midground right here. So for this, I'm going to come up here to the adjustment brush, and I'm going to create a very large brush, big as I can get it here. I'm going to make sure my flow is at 100. I hit the shortcut key O because I want to see the area that I'm impacting, and I'm literally going to paint this entire image. I want the entire thing to be red. I want it all to receive the actual edit. I think that right there looks good. Now I'm going to come down here to range mask, and I'm going to select color. I'm going to hit the shortcut key O because I want to turn my mask overlay off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up this color dropper. So you can actually pick up the 5 different colors, but you're ultimately creating a color palette to tell Lightroom to only target these specific colors. So I'm going to pick up the tool, and I'm going to hit or hold the shift key. And as you can see, the little plus area that pops up, that says that you're about to start to add multiple different color samples. So I'm going to click one here. I'm going to click this area of the tree here, maybe this dark area of the tree all the way up here. I want something in this midground area here, and you can even sample a large area. So I'm going to do this right there, and I think that looks good. Now I'm going to hold down the option key, and I'm going to start to drag this amount slider over. So remember, we want to make the sky black, and we want everything else to be white. And if you look right about here, I mean, look how refined that mask is. Every single one of the branches is targeted, even the swing is targeted, the foreground, the midground, everything but the sky is targeted in this scenario. So the color range mask worked very, very well. And once you have your mask selected, now you can go in and you can do whatever kind of adjustments you want. Maybe you want to increase the exposure or bump up the shadows or add a little bit of texture. You can do anything to it at this point. So let's say that we want to bring the highlights up a little bit, or maybe introduce some texture to the actual foreground and the area of the tree. Or maybe we want to warm up the color temperature of that area just to kind of create the illusion more that the sun is setting, and it's just adding some warm side light to this area right through here. And let's toggle this on and off. So this is off and this is on. And if you look all the way up here at the top of the tree trunk, you can really see it when we toggle it on and off. Off, on, off, and on. So that works fantastic. I don't use the color range mask too often. It's usually the luminance, but either one of them just works absolutely fantastic, and it's a welcome addition to Lightroom. So that's definitely just kind of a real quick summary of the power of using range masks within Lightroom. If you're looking for additional information on it, I actually created an entire video series on this topic about, I think it was towards the end of last year, almost an hour's worth of content with multiple case studies. It's a real deep dive into Lightroom range masks, or range masks in Lightroom. So I'll put a link to that in the description below if you want to take a look at that. And I really hope this week's video, I know it was a quick one, but I hope you were able to pick up some information related to range masks that you can apply to your landscape photos moving forward. I know the topic can be a little bit intimidating, but I'm hoping that you feel a little bit more comfortable now to kind of test it out on some of your photos. And as always, any questions you have, definitely leave them in the comments section below, and I guarantee I will get back in touch with you. And if you enjoyed this week's video, if you could give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed already. And as always, I really do appreciate you watching this week's video, and I'll see you next week. Bye.